Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next question. I'll direct this one to Jeff Morrison. And I want to talk about bike lanes and bike infrastructure. There are groups suggesting the city should dramatically increase the amount of money it's spending on this. At what point does that stop being value for money? Because obviously everybody, it's very fashionable now to be talking about, hey, we need more bike lanes, but at a certain point there just won't be enough people to fill them all. So where is the equilibrium on this issue?
Well, I think anyone living downtown, of course, as I do, that just observes the current bike lanes that we have, knows that there is an increase in cycling. I think we're seeing that just anecdotally. We can see that, we're seeing the lanes fill up, which is a great thing. Where do we essentially, what is enough? I don't think we're ever going to, have enough bike lanes. I think realistically, the things that we can do are, first of all, anytime that there's a redevelopment of an existing street, we need to consider that a complete street. I think a number of us have talked about that in the past, which includes implementing a bike lane. We also need to better maintain the bike lanes that we already have. There are some lanes that, frankly, something as simple as the paint has worn off. You can't even tell there's one there. We also need to do a better job at the safety aspect in terms of where bike lanes intersect with other streets. I know myself, I've been sideswiped by a car where I essentially was going from one bike lane to another where there wasn't a safe intersection in between. So I think there's some common sense things we can do. Should we invest more? Sure. But of course, that needs to be done with a fiscal responsibility in mind.
Everyone now.
We need a comprehensive cycling infrastructure because the streets are shared not only by cyclists but by seniors and vehicles as well. So we cannot just say we have 2 bike lanes, one on O'Connor in future and one on Laurier, and say that's enough. But that's not. You know what happened? Danielle got killed by somebody who opened the door on Queen Street. So you put a bike lane on Laurier, she gets killed on Queen Street. But that doesn't work. I don't understand in a city where the cars have to run in one direction, bicycles have to be on a street that runs in 2 directions. I don't quite get that. I would prefer to see the cars and the bicycles run in one direction, just like everything else.
I'd like to fuse 2 pieces there, both Jeff's and Lily's, because they are excellent points. And where I see them come together is around the lens of community health and safety in our communities. There are tragic examples of people, our brothers or sisters or cousins or friends, that are injured and that unfortunately in more tragic examples die because of a lack of appropriate infrastructure in our city. So it's beyond just the identity of our city, which is becoming a deep cycling culture, but it's also the safety and protection of our citizens in our city. So we have to take that community health lens to the relevance of infrastructure. But I want to bring it back quickly on one point that Mark opened up on, and that is the concept of value for money. So in addition to the safety piece, which is extremely important for our citizens, it's also significant value for money from an economic development perspective. The more people on our streets, the more people engaging on our streets, the more livable our city becomes, the more retail conversion takes place on the retail level. So businesses make more money. More cyclists, more pedestrians equal more money for retail level business.
Can I just bring it back here to balance? So what is the balance? I'll tell you what the balance is for me. We've got in our transportation plan over the next 15 years, $700 million slated for new and widened roads, and we've got $70 million for cycling infrastructure. So what I am proposing is that $70 million be spent over the next 4 years. We're building a light rail transit system. It is our once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change the way people move through our neighborhoods. We need to make sure that there is safe and comfortable infrastructure for both pedestrians and cyclists. And taking that $70 million and spending it over the next 4 years will make sure that when LRT happens, that we've got the infrastructure and that it is safe and comfortable for people to walk through our downtown and to cycle through our downtown.
Remember, as people get older,
Sorry, let's go to Sandra first, and then we'll go to Thomas McVeigh. Go ahead.
I've got a simple solution. You know, guys, we only have 4 years, so I mean, I cycle every day to work, and on the weekend I actually go for a nice long ride. But I mean, just recently there was that poor girl that died on River Road. It was a tragic event, so I don't see that happening where she was just going up for a simple fundraising ride. out there in 4 years. Simple things that I want to implement is keeping it within a 5-kilometer radius of that new O train line that Catherine was talking about, linking it with buses so you can quickly get onto main arteries where they are clearly marked, so drivers will see these signs saying that these are dedicated bike lanes. So this means you have to reduce your speed so children, elderly, just general population will be able to quickly link themselves to what we're currently testing in Westboro, where we have these parking spots where we can park our bike safely, get on a bus, and head downtown. So I mean, if you're in that 5-kilometer range where you can quickly use and access from that point either a light rail or a bus, we can quickly solve a lot of issues with cycling and safety, because I don't see that happening. I see these new roads going up, but I mean, they're out in Timbuktu, like downtown.
Thomas McVeigh is next. Sorry, Thomas McVeigh is next.
One thing in the original question, it was referring to bicycling as fashionable. It's not. It's a structural change we're seeing in how people live in our city. People are choosing not to get driver's licenses. More and more youth have never driven and never will. They're switching to moving downtown. They're biking everywhere. We need to address the fact that we're losing the fossil fuel dependency, and we have to shift from a car-centric culture. We need to do that by accommodating bikes at a structural level. One of the things I've said in my policy statements was we need to appoint a cycling champion in our transportation department, because far too often the transportation engineers are looking at it from the viewpoint of prioritizing cars and then accommodating cyclists and pedestrians afterwards. We need to change that.
I'd rather see it happen within the next 4 years. You're talking decades, like 4 years. I mean, that's my plan. I'm talking like next month. Like, let's get things going.
Connor Mead, go ahead.
It's not safe out there.
I believe that here in Ottawa, we're suffering from a bit of a failure of imagination in terms of cycling and in terms of active transportation. When you visit a city like Amsterdam, for example, with an amazing cycling culture where people take active transportation for the majority of their trips, then you see what's possible when you really invest in cycling and pedestrian walkways and active transportation. And Amsterdam is not a warm city. It's warmer than Ottawa. But year-round cycling is a possibility in Ottawa. And more importantly, 7-8 month cycling is a very convenient and a very enjoyable opportunity in Ottawa. So right now, if I can finish, right now, someone mentioned that this is a very dramatic investment that we're considering. It's not that dramatic at all. Citizens for Safe Cycling, which is one of the premier cycling advocacy groups here in Ottawa, they're only asking for $20 million. We're spending billions on roads and an LRT when we could be building bike lanes that are going to take cars off the road. They're going to relieve congestion, relieve parking difficulties. They're going to benefit everyone in this city for what is a great value. Now, I'm more of a fiscally conservative guy, but in terms of active transportation, in terms of the cost-benefit ratio of that investment, people ask me how far I'll go in terms of bike lanes and active transportation, and I'll quote Pierre Trudeau, and I'll say, just watch me.
John, I agree with you, but again, it's like selling a car in Venice. It's not going to happen. Like, we need simple approaches right now. It's not safe out there. Like, just simple solutions, like I said, just marking the lanes, putting some signage up, get people safe. I mean, I'm close to 50 years old, and I'm frightened every day I go out there. I mean, I have my spidey senses just listening for cars.
I have to agree with you 100%.
I mean, it's that easy. I mean, if I can hop onto a bus, I'd be on it tomorrow. It's not linked up to where I go.
Okay, Edward Conway, you've been trying to get in. Jeff Morrison, we'll go to you next.
I have 2 points. And Connor generally has some really good ideas, being an economist. But $20 million is 5,000 childcare spaces for a year. I just want people at home to actually understand what $20 million is. We throw these numbers around. The second point is this. It's always going to be a conflict as Ottawa grows and more cars come into the downtown area. Thomas said, we're not having more cars. We have 20.
Put price on death.
Just hang on a sec. We have 25,000 new.
When we have the safety of our citizens at jeopardy, how do you price that? That's Martin, my question.
Just give me a moment. We have 25,000 new car registrations every year. We can't deny that. That's not a political issue. It's just new. It means they're coming downtown. We have to have a comprehensive solution to pull cars away from downtown. If we toll the inbound arterials, we are going to pull them away.
Us to do that.
We are going to put them on LRT. We're going to pull them away from downtown.
Who is moving to live downtown? Young people or old people? We are getting more and more seniors downtown who can't ride a bike.
Well,
we
okay,
have to be
all right.
careful.
So I'm going to jump in here and give the floor to Jeff Morrison and then Sylvia O'Reilly after that.
You know, one of the straightforward ideas that someone in the ward brought up to me was that just the notion of proportionality. In other words, when you look at the entirety of the transportation infrastructure budget, is that you apportion it essentially in line with modes of transport. So in other words, if you have X% of modes of transport are by car, we invest that in roads. If we do that by X% by cycling, you invest that in cycling infrastructure. And if you use that concept or that principle of proportionality, it is true that cycling infrastructure is underfunded in favor of the car infrastructure, or excuse me, of roads. So, you know, if you accept that principle, a fairly simple principle of proportionality, I think you get at a lot of the solutions that we're trying to address.
Okay, Sylvia O'Reilly, you're next.
I think part of the original question was also, if there's no demand for it, why are we doing this? It's an investment in the demand in the future. For example, if we build more bike lanes, more people will cycle. And it's been shown that even building more roads or highway lanes, they will be used up right away. That's just what happens. So it's not that there's more cars on the road right after you build the lane. It's that the demand was there. So if we build towards the demand, I think we can address the issue and get more people cycling.
To the O train. Put your ear to the ground and you're going to hear a rumble. That rumble is a tunnel. They're building an O train. That O train is what we presently have going. Mayor Jim Watson has the plan in place. Let's get with it. 5-kilometer radius. I'm talking people in Canada within 5 miles getting linked up to that line. Phase 3, phase 2. The simple solution. Like, I mean, you're still talking cars. We got to get away from that.
Okay.
But we still have over $700 million earmarked for new and widened roads in the next 15 years. So it's and we also have $70 million earmarked over 15 years for cycling infrastructure. So we need to spend that money, that $70 million, over the next 4 years for cycling infrastructure. We also have in the downtown core people who work and live downtown. 74% of those people walk to work. So why are we not investing? They are our cheapest commuters. They don't cost us anything, and we don't invest in them. It's about wide
I'm going to jump in here. There are a couple of people. There are a couple of people who've been trying to get in. Excuse me. Denise Schreibert, I think you had your hand up, and then Lily Weeman will go to you after that.
Absolutely. Going back to your question, Mark, definitely with the lanes that we've already put in, especially like, for example, on Laurier, not that I agreed with the way that it was done on Laurier, but nonetheless, it was there. I live downtown. I live a few blocks away from Laurier, and I do see a lot more people every year and throughout the year, not just in the summer months, use the bike lanes. So I think it's very important that we do invest in more bike lanes, and we need to create a grid across the Somerset or downtown core.
Guys,
so one of the things that we need to do is we need to invest on our first. We have 2 projects that are critical, I find, is the O'Connor Bikeway that will link Wellington to the Glebe Avenue, and the Rochester Street. Now, the Rochester Street would take a little bit longer because I believe it should be the very first fully implemented complete streets from LeBreton Flats to
okay, sorry, I'm going to go to Lily Wayne next.
We almost lost our deputy chief of police by a car. She was riding the bike, and somebody opened the door and almost hit her.
Yeah.
So the cycling safety is a very important thing. We should go towards designing cars that slide, you know, like the family cars with sliding doors so that you don't door on the cyclist.
Never
we
gonna
have to
happen,
go this
Lily.
way.
The point I was addressing is visual signs. You know, we presently have the speed bumps to reduce speeds on streets. Simple solutions. There's money there. Use it properly. You know, dedicate the 5-kilometer radius, getting onto the O train or linking it to the bus lines, throwing our bike on there so we can quickly get where we got to get.
Martin Cannon, go ahead.
Thank you. If we don't emphasize the relevance of cycling infrastructure through a lens of community health and safety, and also articulate a strong business case, the economic case for investing in cycling infrastructure, it's going to be harder to negotiate the release of funds at City Council.
Okay, thank you everyone. We'll go back to Jeff Morrison. You've got 30 seconds to close out on this topic.
So, I don't think there's any question that infrastructure is a key part of the cycling equation, but I think it was Connor who mentioned that there's a real culture change when it comes to cycling, and I would agree with that. But as part of that culture change, we need to also see a better emphasis on safety on the part of all the users, of cyclists, of motorists, of pedestrians, because we've seen too many accidents. And so I think it's really incumbent on all the users of all of our transportation systems to ensure that they essentially respect the other users of the infrastructure, because we want to make sure that safety is paramount.